All right, I think we're going to go ahead and get started so that we can have plenty of time for Q&A at the end. So good morning, everyone. My name is Elizabeth Yutzi, and I'm a research assistant for the Agewell Collaboratory at the College of Nursing and Health Professions. On behalf of Dean Gitlin, I'd just like to say welcome and thank you so much for joining us. So we are the Agewell Collaboratory, and this is our monthly coffee hour. We are so appreciative to have the opportunity to have you all join us so that we can continue to connect virtually with all of our organizational partners and others in the community who are interested in aging. So this morning, we will be talking about the Age-Friendly Philadelphia Plan, as well as home safety for aging in place. And we're so excited that AARP Pennsylvania is sponsoring this session. So I'm going to start by just giving a quick overview of the Agewell Collaboratory for anyone joining us who is new here. So the Collaboratory is our center without walls that brings together students, staff, faculty, researchers, clinicians, and community organizations to innovate around aging. All the Collaboratory's activities fall under our 4 pillars, which are education, research, practice, and community. So to start, our first pillar is community. We very much value the opinions and experience of those in our community. So we've created an organizational partner network, which consists now of over 75 community organizations. And we have quarterly meetings where we can share ideas and get feedback from all of them, or from each other. And usually these meetings are in person, but our next meeting, which I'll touch on in a minute, is going to be virtual. And we're really excited to see what that experience will be like. So we also have a number of educational initiatives. We are working to infuse aging into our curriculum. And we already have some aging focused study abroad courses, which are on hold this year, unfortunately. And they've been very successful in getting students interested in aging. We also offer continuing education courses, which might be of interest to some of you on this call. And we have a new student group, which is really exciting. It launched last week, and I'm sure you'll be hearing more about that in the future. And lastly, we offer some aging-related co-ops, which are like internships for students, and we're hoping to create more. So if you are interested in partnering with us on one of these opportunities, please let us know. We have a variety of research projects going on in the Agewell Collaboratory, and we love involving our partners in these. They've been incredibly helpful so far in providing feedback, participating in focus groups, and helping to recruit participants. And lastly, we strive to take this research and translate it into practice, which is our 4th pillar, by taking our work into community settings. And again, we love to involve our partners in this, and we'll always include opportunities to participate in our newsletter. So if you're not on our newsletters, you can email us and we can get you on that mailing list. So like I said, our next organizational partner meeting will be October 6th from 9 to 10 a.m. via Zoom, and you do need to register for this so that you get a link. And if you haven't received an email yet about registering, then you can email us at agewell@drexel.edu and we can send you that information. So now coffee hour, which is why you're all here. Coffee hour is a time where we gather members of our community to discuss a topic related to aging. So we try to find a topic that touches on the 4 pillars that I just mentioned. And so far our discussions have ranged from art, research, practice, theory, and more. And we're trying to address different populations such as students, researchers, caregivers, and we're constantly trying to expand on this. So if you have any ideas of sessions that you would like to see, we are in the process of planning our 2021 coffee hours. So you can send any ideas you have to us at agewell@drexel.edu. Okay, so I'll sum up my part by just talking about some of the coffee hour conventions that we have. So overall, we'd like this to be a casual and comfortable environment. So we'd love if you could all introduce yourselves in the chat, maybe put your name and what organization you're from, or if you're a student or faculty member, so that we can all know who's with us. And we also invite any questions or comments in the chat box. Maria and Melinda will be monitoring this throughout the session. And we will also have time at the end for a Q&A. And you can, again, ask your questions in the chat, or you can unmute yourself at the end and ask in person. Until then, we ask that you please leave yourself on mute so that we can reduce the background noise. And lastly, we want you to remember that coffee hour is an inclusive space. centered around discussion. So you don't have to be an expert in this topic to ask a question or have a comment. None of us are experts. That's why we bring the experts in to talk about these topics. So please join in the conversation regardless of your experience level. So lastly, sit back and enjoy. So I'm going to introduce our speakers now, and then we will get started. So first up, we're going to hear from Jocasta Laura from AARP Pennsylvania, and she is the Associate State Director of Advocacy and Community Outreach. And afterwards, we will hear from Dr. Catherine Pearsall, who's a professor and chair of the Department of Occupational Therapy at Thomas Jefferson University, and also the director of Jefferson Elder Care. So first up, we are going to hear from Jocasta. So Jocasta, I'll let you take a moment to introduce yourself, and then I have some questions that I'm going to ask her.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Fantastic. Good morning. Thank you so much for the opportunity. My name is Jocasta Laura. I work with AARP as an Associate State Director for Community Outreach and Advocacy. I have been doing this work now for over 5 years. Serving the older population and connecting multi-generational communities. I am really thrilled with this opportunity. And if you hear noises, I have 2 kids. It's one homeschooling. She's locked in her room, and my 2 years old, which is still sleeping, which is really weird. God listened to my prayers last night. But she can show up any moment.
Great, thank you. So I'm going to start off by asking you to just talk a little bit about what the AgeFriendly Philadelphia report is and how it came to be.
Sure. So the AgeFriendly action plan that we moved to call it Livable Communities, it is the same concept, but in order for us to connect with a more with a multi-generational community and have those open conversation, it was more appealing for us to switch to Livable Communities age-friendly. This is a partnership that AARP has with the World Health Organization. And across the country, we have over 462 communities who have joined the network. AARP have been designated as the outreach organization for the entire country. And the idea is to create awareness about what it means to be older in today's communities. And what is meant to be older is because if you think about how was a 50 years old 20 years ago, and what is mean being 50 today is quite a difference. Now the older population tend to be more active, work longer, more involved in their community. After they are retired, they move back to the city because it's more connected. So we want to make sure that the community at large is educated about what is meant to be older and what are the resources that the community needs to have in place in order to age for the older population to age in place. So the action plan is an assessment that we do for our community to have a deeper understanding on what are the resources and the needs that we need to work with communities, organizations, and the government in our own city to make sure that we continue advocating for the older population and have the concept of multi-generation.
Great, thank you. So what were your key findings in this report, like a general overview of your work?
Sure. We identified the needs of a lack of affordable housing. That was the first one. And was interested because, as we know, the city of Philadelphia is besides COVID, of course, it's experienced what we call it gentrification, or can call it displacement or beautification, right? Because now the city is becoming a new investor in how the lack of affordable housing for the people who live in their own community for years and years. So that was the first key finding, that it was kind of the most obvious. And then the increase in task assessment. And the ability of affordable housing and home modification and repairs. It is a lack of need for home modification for the homeowner that they own their own home and they want to stay in their own communities, but they are low income and those repair they are really costly. And every time that we hosted a community organization on the research, you need to is we have a few organizations who provide those resources, but now we need to talk about what is the waiting list. They have thousands of homeowners waiting, and they have thousands of older adults waiting for these resources. There are the three main key findings that I can mention, but there were a ton of others. For instance, reliable public transportation. I say public transportation, but we're talking about housing. Yes, but this is really connected because when you live in a neighborhood that you don't have accessible public transportation, how do you going to go to your doctor's appointment? How do you going to go to grocery shopping? How will you connect with your family? Also, the lack of green and open spaces, which are the three main domains in the report, because they are connected with housing and the way that you are living and the amenities that you live to have a healthy living. So it is complex element, even though we had three top key findings in order for us to have a better community and livable communities for all ages. We have also the community would like to see a more diverse population. And when we say more diverse population means when we gathered the data or some of the data for the report, we hosted over 12 community conversations across the entire city of Philadelphia. Northeast, West Philly, South Philly. And if you're from Philadelphia, you understand that the conversation in the Northeast, even though we're targeting the same topic, is going to be totally different with a conversation with the community members in West Philadelphia. So the lack of a diversity by connectivity between neighborhoods is another one. The issues about affordable health and homeowner insurance. So that's some of the key findings that we have. But as I said, that we have over 24 findings that we are referring in the report.
Great, thank you. And I will be sending out in a follow-up email the Livable Communities Action Plan. So if you want to read more in detail about all of the findings that Jocasta just talked about, you can do so. All right, and my next question for you, Jocasta, is so what work is AARP doing to move the plan forward? So what is being planned and what's maybe already in the works when it comes to some of the findings around housing?
Sure. The work that have been done is we haven't done this work alone. We have a fantastic relationship with the city, with the aging department, with a network of organizations that it is composed for over 27 organizations. So in each of the organizations are divided in subcommittee, housing, transportation, and green open spaces. Throughout the lens of housing, for instance, for what is happening now in the crisis that we are living, we work hand to hand with the city council to push for the emergency housing protection package, which is avoiding, yeah. Oh God, I forgot the specific word. I will come back to that one, but the package is to make sure that the community, they stay in the homes, that they are not kicked out of the houses. So, and that have been working for the moment in time. We are also in conversation and working with council because in the umbrella of that package, we also going to be working with them to push some modification to make sure that for the extended period of the crisis that we are living in, they stay safe in their homes. And also we push for late last year, we are a member of the PACDC, the Philadelphia Association for CDCs here, and we push for the Philadelphia Housing Trust Fund. In an effort to address affordable housing crisis in Philadelphia, we work with City Council because in order to push for policies, we need to make sure that we have front and center. And City Council voted to approve 4 important bills designated to create incentive for developers to include affordable housing projects and to make contribution to the Philadelphia Housing Fund Trust, meaning that when they're going to develop, they're going to have a diverse of housing that community can be able to uh, to buy, for lack of a better term. So you're going to have a mixed housing in our community. So that's something the work that we have been doing. But what it needs to be done needs to be done is continue working with policymakers and continue educating the community at large what is needed in order for us to have a livable community for all ages. The needs of the younger population, they are pretty similar to the older population. Affordable housing, accessible transportation, and amenity to age in place. If you are raising a young family, you want to have greater school, but if you are an old adult, you want to have great open green spaces, great parks, you want to have sidewalks, you want to have transportation system, and it's the same as a younger family. We want to make sure that we create the awareness and that when organizations out there are talking about those issues, they include the older population lens. I have also learned that talking about older population is kind of civil right because not everybody want to advocate for older population. Even sometimes the older adult, they talk about older adult as a third person. It is a taboo that we need to continue working, and it's a lot of work to get done. But the priorities are working with community organization on the ground to push for local policies that they can escalate to the state level and federal level.
Great, thank you. So just a follow-up question, because you've mentioned some of the other organizations in Philadelphia. Do you have a sense of what other organizations are doing to address this housing area? So who else is involved in this action plan or in advancing the plan within the community?
Sure. As I said, we have 27 organizations, but I'm going to mention the one that they are working in housing. We have the Philadelphia Association of Community Development and Corporation, which is PACDC. We have the South Asian Mutual Assistance Association Coalition, which is better known as CMAC. We are working with the Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission, the VRPC. We have the Jefferson University. Of course, we're working with the Drexel University College of Nurses and Health Professional. So it's a group of experts that we have been gathering and working on the ground to make sure that we cover all of the aspects of a better living in livable communities. And most important for all ages. When we are talking about this because we are AARP, doesn't mean that it's only targeting the older population. So that's some of the organizations that we're working on it. And each of them are working with the special programs, pushing for local policies. One of the main goals that we have is before COVID is talking about accessory dwelling units, which are calling as a granny space. We need to talk about this specific issue in council. We know that it's a lot of work to get done. We need to work with the zoning, but this is something that's one of our priorities and major goals to continue conversation in the ground with elected officials.
Great. And so my last question for you as we transition kind of into Dr. Pearsall's talk is how does this report, specifically the focus on housing, and how does that impact the everyday importance? What is the everyday person, and what is the importance of this for people who are trying to age in place?
Sure. This is a great question. Thank you. First, let's think about the 50 plus when we are planning. Let's think about the older population. The younger generation of today will be the older generation of tomorrow. The first millennium will become 50 in 2030. So I can wait for that. So the large, we believe that now the younger generation millennials is outbanding the older population. But by that time, that community will be the older population, right? But communities that can create multi-generational concept, as I say, will find ways to stabilize the cost of governing and providing services and create new opportunities for economic growth, believe it or not, because when we have access to groceries, to your doctors, when you can go to the theater that means economic growth. That means that your community is doing better and provide better quality of life for all residents of all ages. I sounds that I'm repeating myself with residents of all ages and 50 plus, but it's something that we need to ingrain in ourselves. And at the same time, the older population will innovate in areas associated with how to age, the healthcare system, supporting service. And when I say supporting service, it's not only senior centers, meaning amenities, where they can exercise, where they can talk about business, because the older population also are becoming entrepreneurial because they want to, because they have to. The purpose of the action plan is also to provide local leaders with tools and principles that they can build collaborations needed to create livable communities in every area of the community, starting with the local government, and that played an important role in this effort. And I can go on and on and on and on and how that's going to change our life when we educate our kids about the importance of respecting the older population and what it means to be older. When we create programs that the younger generation can connect with the older generation of population, and they can understand that they had so many similarities. Because we did, among the listening session that we host, purposely we requested to have high schooler and older adult, people with disabilities, so that this conversation was not only about the older population, again, because we are ERP, and learning that the younger, I remember when we hosted a conversation in North Philadelphia, this young guy said that he kind of avoid the older adult because he feel that the older population were listening to him because he's younger. And then the older, I remember this young lady, she was like, but we're trying to avoid the younger kids because we feel that they don't listen to us and they don't respect us. So each demography feels the same way because we are not open to have this conversation and to educate not only the younger, but also the older population. How can we work together and how important that will be for our economy, for our local communities. To have a better growth and also to have the respect that we need, that is really needed nowadays. I'm going to stop right here for a sake of timing. And also I hear my daughter that she's kind of having a break, so I don't want to make sure that the noise doesn't come to us. But thank you so much, and I'm going to stay tuned if you have any other questions.
Thank you so much, Jocasta. That was very insightful. If you have any questions for Jocasta, you can put them in the chat. Like I said, Maria and Melinda are monitoring that, or you can wait until the end when we have time for Q&A. So now we are going to transition into hearing from Dr. Pearsall. She is the director of Jefferson Elder Care. Sorry, my PowerPoint is now not responding, but she's the director of Jefferson Elder Care as well as the chair of the Department of Occupational Therapy at Thomas Jefferson University. And Dr. Pearsall, I am going to give control over to you so that you can change your slides, and you should be in control now.
Thank you so much.
All right, and I'll let you take it away.
Pleasure to be here. I am thrilled to be asked to talk about home safety and keeping people at home for as long as possible. So I appreciate the invitation. I want this to be practical tips as we go forward, and I know there will be time for questions at the end. So I look forward to engaging in that dialogue. So I'm gonna just move right on here. Oh, wait, let's see, I see, got it, I got it. So I'm sorry, Jocasta, I missed the beginning of your presentation. And I think this is, from what I just was listening, this will build on all the information that you provided. I couldn't agree more with everything you're saying about the importance of being in the community, about looking at aging across the lifespan and not just old people. And I think that we have to open our, the viewpoints that we take in terms of what is aging and what does that mean to stay at home. And the home means different things to different people. So safety is the focus of what we're talking about, and why is it really important to look at safety as we age? And I think we probably all agree, and there's evidence to support the fact that most people want to stay at home. Most people want to be in a home environment that feels right, Oftentimes it's the home you've been in for 50 years, or maybe it's a new environment, but it's yours and it's where you feel most comfortable. So the ways in which we can help people stay at home, certainly one of the foremost ways is to look at how we can make it as safe as possible. What sometimes happens as we age in place is that the way in which the home is typically set up, where we used to store things for the last 30 years, how we have our furniture set up, and where objects are placed in the home that once were not too much of a risk for falling or injuring are now become a greater risk as we age. So the other important aspect of home safety is to look at how is your home currently set up? How do you do things right now? And are there ways, simple ways? Sometimes it's very simple, inexpensive, or maybe costs nothing, to modify your environment to make it as safe as possible. And really what this is all about is reducing the risk. We can never do anything that's going to say you will never, there's no chance of you or anyone falling or injuring themselves at home. But what we can really focus on is reducing the risk of that from happening. So it's really about minimizing the risk that one has while they do things around their home for a fall, and a fall leads to injury oftentimes. And on the flip side of that, what this is all about is really promoting safe engagement in the activities that one likes to do. The things that you have always done in your life, how can you continue to do them safely at home? Which equates to my little graphic there is promoting a quality of life. So this is all about promoting, maintaining a quality of life and what that means for us as individuals, as members of families and other types of groups. So promoting quality of life is really the essence of why we want to look at home safety and make changes as we go. So I wanted to just share some typical safety risks that are in the home, and you can think about your home as we run through these. These come from the literature as well as years of experience working with people over the years, and probably hold true for anyone who has or is caring for or overseeing their parents or grandparents at home. These are the things that trap us and that oftentimes are the cause of why someone has an accident or falls at home and then injures themselves. So how many times, if you have the stairs to a second floor, have you thrown something on the stairs because you got to take it up the next time you go up? What happens is clutter happens on the stairs, and that is a potential problem waiting to happen there, where things are not in a place that's not expected or where they shouldn't be. Again, with stairs, handrails that maybe have loosened a little bit or broken, or maybe there is no handrail available for the stairs that are taking you from one place to the other. A big area that I always deal with and always have to be very sensitive when you walk into a home and you see these beautiful rugs, throw rugs, area rugs even, but they're frayed or the throw rug is not secure. Those are major hazards, even though the rug has been there for many years and nothing has ever happened. The risk is still there with rugs that are not secured down. Furniture that may be blocking your path of travel. Do you always have to walk around something to get somewhere? You've done it many times, many years potentially. But if there was a way to eliminate having to walk around, could that be possible? The walking around just increases the risk that something can happen. Again, objects of various sources being on the floor and in the path of travel, as well as wires and cords that may be there just simply because there's an extension cord. That is an issue waiting to happen as well. Supplies, and I'm going to give an example primarily in the kitchen about this, but supplies that are stored so high that you can't reach them or you must step on something, or so low that sometimes you have to bend down so far or actually get on your knees to get something. The bathroom is the other place that has high risk that we need to look at. And the bathtub, for example, that's slippery and there's nothing to kind of hold on to other than maybe a towel rack, which could pull out of the wall. And then lighting, hallways that are dark, rooms that are dark is another area of concern, or another area to be addressed, I guess I should say. So what can we do about some fixes, some home modifications that can be made? Sometimes the word home modification, I don't use that word specifically here, because home mods do not have to cost a lot of money, do not have to be big construction projects. Some home mods can be made fairly easily and inexpensively. So I spoke about railings, and railings ideally are best on both sides of the staircase. However, it's not necessary as long as there is a railing on one side as you're going up and down. This is a staircase here in this picture that's going up to a second floor, so it's quite a long staircase, and there's a handrail on the right-hand side. Is it secure? Is it sturdy? And as long as someone can be able to use that, there's no reason to put something on the other side. However, ideally, of course, to have a railing on both sides provides even more security for the person that might be going up and down. You can also see some things that are on the stairs that would block the person or prevent them from safely going from one step to the other. And those are easily moved, or another plan of attack in terms of how you handle all the objects that need to go up and down the stairs. The surfaces on the stairs, looking at the quality of the carpet and looking at the surface, are they slippery? Are they even, or are there loose components of the stairs, whether you're looking internal to the home or exterior to the home. So I'm going to take us into the kitchen now. If you think of your kitchen, kitchens are for many. Oh, I see our pictures being shown. Yes, they are. People aren't seeing them. I'm sorry if you're not seeing the pictures. It's from Janice.
Yes, I'm able to see them.
Elizabeth, are you seeing them?
Yeah, I'm seeing pictures.
Oh, okay.
I can see photos too.
All right. I'm sorry. I don't know. I'm going to, okay. Sorry, Janice, that you can't see the pictures. We can share. I'm happy to share the PowerPoint, and they are in the handout that you'll get. So in the kitchen, and really the pictures are good, but you'll get the gist. The storage. Think about your kitchen and where you have things stored right now. You've had them there maybe, unless you recently maybe moved into the environment that you're in now. They're in places that they've been for quite a few years. And you probably are used to having to reach down or reach up to get things. One thing that you can do is look at or ask the question, what are the objects that you use in that space? And we'll use the kitchen, for example, every single day. If I use a pan every single day, or the same plate, bowl, or utensils, is it possible, is there a space to organize those and keep them out during the week at least? You can always put them away if company's coming over, but is there a way to keep that pan, to keep that bowl out so that you don't have to reach for it or bend for it? Remember, the whole point here to reduce to the simplest thing is reducing a risk for something to happen to you, so you can maintain your quality of life, enjoy the activities that you want to do. So storage is key and oftentimes not considered. Where am I putting things, and can I identify the things that I use, whether it's kitchen, bathroom is another place, every day, and store them in a spot that is easily accessible and does not require me to bend or reach or stand on a stool. Standing on a stool should be avoided. for safety for obvious reasons. However, sometimes you do need a stool, and some of you may have this type, but the type that we usually recommend is a stool, and this picture just shows a stool with a bar that you can hold on to. What you do not want to do is, what I'm sure we have all done, is step on a chair. A chair is not sturdy. It's easy to move the kitchen chair over. If there's things that you know you typically are going to have to store above, and sometimes that is the case, then a really quality stool is important to buy, to purchase, or ask as a gift maybe, that has a hand on it so you can steady yourself as you get up and down. Okay, so let's move into the bathroom. The bathroom is where most accidents happen, as I'm sure you either know or are not surprised to hear. Some of the typical types of modifications that are made are with grab bars. Now, there were the concern of having to install grab bars if you're renting an apartment or a home versus whether you own it. That's always a concern and may require approval. However, there are grab bars, and it's hard. I should have had a better picture. There are grab bars that don't have to be installed into the wall that, for example, clamp on the tub. So there are ways to get around having to install something if that's something either you don't want to do or you can't do in your environment. But having that just extra security. What oftentimes happens is people do, as I mentioned earlier, grab the towel rack, because towel rack is there, especially if you start losing your balance, you're going to grab for something. Towel racks are going to come out of the wall, and that's going to cause more problems. So being proactive and preventative by having a really nice, and now of course there are grab bars that are very reasonably priced, that look, even can be used as a towel rack, but it's a grab bar. So these are some of the design features that you can be thinking about and that meet the budget that you have, that would replace, for example, the towel rack, but give you that security when you're getting in and out of the toilet, up and down from the toilet, or in and out of the tub. The other areas in the shower tub and are anti-slip, and some are built in. I typically, when I'm talking to folks in their homes, don't trust the built-in anti-slip, and always want to have them reinforce that with, as the picture here, that blue mat. There's many of these types of anti-slip types of mats. One thing that, another recommendation oftentimes, is not only in, which is what we think about putting it inside the toilet, the shower or tub, but also thinking about putting something anti-slip outside. The bath mats are oftentimes a problem as well, and if they don't have an anti-slip mat that prevents it from sliding, especially as we step out and we're wet and it gets wet, it can cause a problem. So thinking about anti-slip mat on either side of the tub and or shower is something to consider. And then another typical setup, and oftentimes people think about, I won't need the tub seat or the shower chair unless something happens to me and then I can't stand. I will just throw out the idea, the notion, and I've had this conversation with many people, including my parents. Why not sit as a preventative measure? Why not reduce the risk? Doesn't mean you can't stand up to wash certain areas, but why not put yourself in a comfortable, much safer position while you're showering in order to potentially lower the risk for a fall. We know people fall in the tub. For the years of time I was an occupational therapist in rehab, hundreds of people that I was treating for a total hip replacement or a hip fracture, because guess what? They fell in the tub or the shower. So it's really a place where we can do preventative measures along with the chair or some type of device to sit on. is a handheld shower that allows you potentially to wash certain areas of your body without having to move too much because you can target. So again, lowering the risk of putting yourself in a position where you might lose your balance in an environment that's wet, soapy, and slippery. So just some thoughts about how you can set things up in advance to prevent a possible, I should say, injury. Okay, and then I wanted to talk about path of travel, and path of travel is wherever you're going, and we're sticking kind of into the home, but we could venture out a little bit outside the home when you're leaving your house to go into the community. Path of travel oftentimes isn't directly assessed or considered, but it's so important whether it's going from one room to the other or whether it's within the room going from one place to the other. Where this oftentimes is something to consider is at night when you have to go from your bedroom or bed to your bathroom, whether the bathroom's outside down a hallway or whether it's within your bedroom. That can cause as a potential risk for falls and other injuries. So looking at path of travel from these three perspectives, the lighting, what lighting is available in that area, would you benefit? Now, of course, this is more of a construction and cost, but an overhead light is not in the hallway because it just was never designed that way. Is it possible, feasible to add a light in the ceiling? If not, is it feasible to put in the corner a standing floor lamp or a table up on the corner with additional of a light that sits on the table? So is there a way to increase the lighting? Lighting, we know, reduction of lighting or shadows are oftentimes the cause of someone thinking something's there, so they hesitate, and that throws them off balance, and then there's a fall. So looking at hallways as well and what's on the floor, as I mentioned earlier, this is a challenge for people that have had the same throw rug for years, and it's beautiful, and most often it is, but that is a risk, a high risk for falls. You ideally want a hallway that is flat, even, and does not have any type of surface where you have to lift up or where your foot could catch. And then looking at what objects might be in your way, both boxes or furniture, and is there a way to move furniture but still keep a beautiful environment, but is there a way to look at how you might modify that to just make less steps or make it cleaner to get from point A to point B that you have to do 50 times a day? You know, what are the things that you do on a regular basis, and how could you, is it possible to make that easier? Oops, sorry. So I'm just giving you just some food for thought here of the most typical areas in the home and some of the thoughts about what you can do to modify or to fix, if you will, specific areas in advance more proactively, and thinking about what the potential is down the road. Start now, thinking about how you could make modifications in the home that would reduce the risk, and start new routines. Oftentimes it's the routines that get us. We're used to doing it this way, and if we can begin to look at the environment early on and set it up that promotes a easy performance of the daily activities that we do that are safe, then we can establish new routines in a more safe environment that's conducive to allowing us to do all the things that we need to do. I wanted to share this, and on the next slide there, I have links to a link to this actual check sheet that is created by the CDC. This is, I think, either the second or third edition of an easy to do safety assessment or checklist, where you can print this out or look at it on an iPad and go through the home to these areas that it lists here. And I like the way it's set up because it's really just asking basic questions. As you are in the home, asking yourself, are there paper, shoes, books, or other objects that are on the stairs? Are the steps broken? Moving to the floors, are there, when you walk through a room, do you have to walk around furniture? Do you have throw rugs on the floor? So it's an easy way to do a self-assessment of your home. And if there were things that you found that were of concern, then taking the next step as to modifying that, reducing the risk. They provide some examples here as well, and I'll share some more resources where you might go to get some ideas about what you might do. But I like to present this as though it doesn't require major a major construction activity, or it doesn't require a lot of funding oftentimes to create an environment that is the safest that it can be and allow someone to continue to perform the activities that they enjoy during the days and weeks and the responsibilities that they have. So on this last slide is the link to the checklist from the CDC. I also want to highlight that there's a wonderful resource, Tips for Aging at Home, and although it's kind of small, so you might not be able to see, but Dr. Laura Gitlin, who's the Dean of the College of Nursing and Health Professions, is the lead author of this. And this book is a wonderful chock block full of tips that were generated by years of research that was done both at Jefferson, because Dr. Gitlin was at Jefferson years ago, and research that was done at Johns Hopkins in Baltimore. And this is a culmination of working with hundreds, if not maybe thousands, of people in the home. And what has worked, what are key suggestions for what to do within the home to promote safe performance of everyday activities. So I gave a link here to Amazon. I think it's about $17 on Amazon, and it's a great little resource. It's not a big book. It's a really easy book to go to. It's not a book you necessarily would read from beginning to end, but you would go to it for resource. I have an issue in the bathroom or the kitchen. You're going to find some tips in this book for that. And then another resource that I like is the Home Safety Council. Now, the Home Safety Council is across the lifespan. They're looking a lot at, of course, safety related to baby and toddlers at home, but they have a really nice tab just for older adults, which is really about aging in place. And which you can't see too well here, but you can go online and look at it, the tab that they include a lot of, again, resources, suggestions for aging in place, for modifications. I didn't touch on this, but personal safety in terms of the safety emergency systems that you can set up. So there's a wealth of resources here that they update consistently as well. And I knew you were already going to get AARP, so of course that's a wonderful resource as well. So this is just a touch about things that you can be thinking about, and I am very happy to answer questions, or you can always contact me. I want to leave you with my contact information as well. I'll turn it back to you, Elizabeth, for questions.
Yes, thank you so much. That was really wonderful presentation, very informative. And those are great resources that you left us with. And for anybody who wants to access those, the PowerPoint slides will be sent out, like I mentioned, but also I'll be sending out a resource document. And so all of those resources will be listed in there, since they're really great. So I'm going to change the slide. And so we will open this up for questions. Nicole, you put a question in the chat. If you want to ask in person, you can unmute and ask that now, or I can read it for you.
Hi, it seems like the question was answered during the presentation. So thank you for that.
Yeah, I'm seeing it, Nicole. It's a great question. And it's sensitive to what can renters what are the limitations no matter where you are, but certainly with renters that you can do. I guess just to point out, if you're renting, typically you do have to get permission to install or change the structure. In my experience, when I was directly providing patient care in hospitals and rehab and outpatient home care, done it all, I never experienced an owner who would not acknowledge the need and would support someone installing, for example, a grab bar, as you say, or handrail. But it is an important point. And if there is a way to do it without having to disrupt the structural environment, I think sometimes there are ways to do that. One example was that the tub grab bar, but there's other ways that you could modify to make something safe without having to disrupt the structural environment of the home.
Thank you. So are there any other questions for either Dr. Pearsall or for Jocasta?
I'll say that I actually have one. So thank you very much, Dr. Pearsall and Jocasta as well. It's very insightful, and we're so happy that we were able to host you for this. A question I had actually that you did touch on a little bit, Dr. Pearsall, in regards to there being low cost options that people can prioritize, that maybe they don't need to do a full home renovation. But for larger projects, I guess, or more expensive options that people want to implement, I mean, this does go to Jocasta as well. Are there funding resources that homeowners or renters can actually seek out that could actually offer some assistance for some to conduct some of these changes?
I imagine Jocasta has absolutely some great, probably better than me, that what two agencies that come to mind immediately, where I don't directly, well, with one currently working with, but with the Philadelphia Corporation of Aging, PCA, which you may know, they have a huge office and department that looks at and supports, and I don't know the mechanisms, but supports an occupational therapist actually going out and doing a home evaluation and then making recommendations. They do, I believe, but I could be wrong here, but that information certainly is available. Exterior ramping to get into the home. They will install elevators outside. You can see those sometimes. When I walk around Center City in the brownstones, I will see elevators that have been installed to get the person that's using a wheelchair up to the first floor. So PCA is a great resource for that, and I do believe they have funding. The other, and I bring up Habitat for Humanity because actually Drexel, Jefferson, and Habitat are involved in a project right now. So they also, as you probably know, do big construction projects, but in terms of funding, that's where I have less knowledge in terms of what's out there for funding.
Sure. I want to jump in, and another that I was missing, you share a good number of organizations that we also are aware is Rebuilding Together Philadelphia. Rebuilding Together Philadelphia is a fantastic organization that also have joined the network, and we are working with them. They have multi-generational programs. And they have the program that they visit the homeowner, they do the assessment, and they send contractor to make the repairs. I'm not sure about the process of the selection. I also don't have a lot of information about the funding as well.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up because I think the local district of the Pennsylvania OT Association has been involved with rebuilding. So I should have thought of that. So thanks for bringing that up. That's a great organization.
We're a team.
Yeah, thank goodness. Always takes more than one for sure.
Excellent. Are there any other questions from our audience? Okay, maybe not. If not, I have a question that I can ask. Sure. So I think something that's becoming pretty common is multi-generational housing, multiple generations living together. And I'm wondering if there are any additional challenges to aging in place that come up with multi-generational housing. So maybe challenges, but also some benefits to that.
Yeah, that is a wonderful question. You know, the perspective of looking at the environment across the board for safety should start in infancy, as really looking at what is exposed, what is available, how are we structuring the environment for safe performance of everyday activities. Can start, from the beginning of one's life all the way through. So multi-generational living, where we have grandkids, parents, and their sandwich generations has the kids at home plus their parents at home, is an example of that. So how I like to think about it is, it's not just as we age, but although it's always framed that way, but how can we start the safe environment from the start? So, and the focus has not been on individuals with cognitive impairment, with dementia, but some of the similar types of safety measures that you would do for a child, where you want to prevent exposure to harmful liquids, or oftentimes when people have dementia, as they progress, they might as well misinterpret a poisonous liquid that looks like water as water. So some of the same strategies that you might do early on for children are the same that you would do for someone that you want to stay at home, but you want to make sure it's a safe environment. So there's overlap there. The continuum is how I like to think about it, and the focus on just reducing that risk and promoting a safe environment. That is a lifelong, that should be lifelong, no matter where you are in the developmental cycle, the age cycle. So I think it's a wonderful way to consider aging in place, because we're all aging in place. It doesn't matter how old we are, we're all aging in place. So I think that's a notion to begin to look at the approaches that we can take that can last a lifetime. So routines that are built are safe routines from the start. You're on mute, Elizabeth. So sorry.
Thank you for that answer. That's great. We still have time for one more question if there's anybody in the audience that if anything has popped up. Seems like a quiet group this morning. So unless there's anything that either of you two want to add, then I can wrap it up.
Just thank you. This is great. I appreciate joining you today.
We'll follow with the same. Thank you so much for the opportunity. To you, Elizabeth, for all the work. To Kate, Dean Laura, for the opportunity. This has been great. And it's a pleasure to also share the screen with Dr. Pearsall. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Nice to meet you, Jocasta.
Likewise.
Thank you both so much. This was really wonderful to have you and so informative. So, like I said at the beginning, our next Agewell organizational partner meeting is on October 6th. If you want to join us, then use the registration link that might have already come into your inbox. And if not, I will be sending it again, and you can email agewell@drexel.edu if you haven't been receiving that. And lastly, if you'd like to be on our mailing list to receive our Agewell newsletter or more information about future coffee hours or other events, again, if you're not on that list, you can email agewell@drexel.edu and we will get you all set up. So that's all I have for us this morning. So thank you again to our wonderful speakers, and thanks to all of you for joining us. And I believe our next coffee hour is going to be sometime in the new year. So look out for information on our 2021 dates. And thank you all.
Take care, everyone. Have a nice weekend. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.